And we will now do the national anthem by Brandy Halverson.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad streamers and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Great job, Brandy. The invocation by Father Joseph Vigil.
Let us pray. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, may we show pardon. Where there is doubt, give us faith. Where there is despair, give us hope. Where there is darkness, show us light. Where there is sadness, give us joy. O divine Master, grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
My name's Gino Carleo, and I'm the president of the lodge. Al Spinuzzi, who is our guy for the Knights of Columbus, and this is our 25th year of being guardians of the monument. The Sons of Italy started in 1991, and we've tried to protect it every year, and we're still doing it. So we have some great guest speakers today. Zach Swearinger, who is our county commissioner. Zach, come on.
It's fixed here. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. We are here today celebrating Christopher Columbus, one of the greatest mariners in history, and his historic voyage across the Atlantic. He was the first European to land in the Americas since the Vikings landed in Newfoundland in the 10th century. With backing from the Spanish monarchs, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, he landed in the Bahamas in 1492. Columbus made this treacherous journey several more times before his death in 1506. A year after his death is when America was given her name in honor of another Italian explorer, Amerigo Vespucci. The first person to propose that the lands Columbus sailed to was a part of a separate continent. We have been celebrating Columbus Day in the United States since 1792. And in 1937, FDR proclaimed it a national holiday. Controversy over Columbus Day is not new, and in fact dates back to the 19th century when anti-immigrant groups in the United States rejected the holiday because of its association with Catholicism. As we all know, controversy still surrounds this holiday, and while history is not always pretty, It is not our job to erase or change it, or to tell people in this country what they can and cannot celebrate. The Conquistador Cortes landed in Hispaniola, which is now Haiti and the Dominican Republic, in the year 1504. The conquistadores then entered the Aztec Mexican capital of Tenochtitlan in 1519, kidnapping Moctezuma and murdering hundreds of high-ranking Mexico. The people of Tenochtitlan quickly revolted and forced Cortes to retreat. The conquistadores then had to make alliances with tens of thousands of diverse native peoples who resented Aztec rule to then capture the capital in 1521, renaming it Mexico City. The Spanish Empire controlled more than half of the United States land area and more than 5 million square miles in the Western Hemisphere at the peak of its power. Gold and silver began to connect European nations through trade, and the Spanish money supply ballooned, which signified the beginning of the economic system known as capitalism. History can be brutal and horrific, but it can also be beautiful and full of monumental achievements. We should all strive to know history for so many reasons. Initial conquest of the Americas was largely Spanish driven, which is not usually talked about, but rather the United States is blamed for initial conquests, which again is a reason to understand history. The United States does have a very bloody and sometimes atrocious past. We have also created the most free and prosperous country in human history. One of these sacred freedoms is for us all to assemble, celebrate, and even protest peacefully. So, whether you choose to celebrate Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, let us do so peacefully and respectfully, because through all of that history, we are all here now living in the greatest country on earth as Americans. And sometimes I think people don't realize how blessed we are to call the United States our home. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Mark Ayla, former city council member. Good morning. What a beautiful day for this celebration of Columbus Day. I want to thank the Sons of Italy once again for asking me to come up here and speak. I consider this a great honor to be in front of you and to celebrate Christopher Columbus Day. For sure. So before, when I came before you, we were bathed in controversy. I was on city council, and there was a lot of things that needed to be taken care of. But literally, what I wanted to do this year, is talk about what Columbus Day means to me personally, because I think there's no more controversy. All there is a celebration. Literally, Christopher Columbus was the OG of entrepreneurs. If you read the definition of entrepreneur, you'll find that it says in the dictionary, one who takes the initiative to create a product or establish a business for profit. Generally, whoever undertakes on his own account an enterprise in which others are employed and risks are taken. Can you imagine back in the day when Christopher Columbus had this dream, this idea that somewhere out there was another country, another place full of riches and opportunity. And he literally goes to the people in charge and he says, listen to me. You give me a few ships and a few men and you give me a little bit of food, and I'm going to go across these crazy oceans that are so dangerous, and I'm going to bring back to you a new country, a new place of opportunity. I can only imagine what the leaders of the time said. They sat there and they said, oh my goodness, I guess what do we have to lose? This guy's a heck of a great mariner. Let's give him some ships. Now, what we consider ships weren't the ships that he got into. What he got into were boats with a bunch of men and a bunch of other explorers with a dream of saying that what we have here isn't enough. There's more, and we're willing to dream and take the adventure and move forward. And lo and behold, Christopher Columbus crossed those oceans and came to where we're at today. My family's journey was just as personal. I come from a great-grandfather who was an Irish immigrant who took a wife and 2 children and left Ireland with nothing but a dream, a knapsack, and said, I'm going to go to America because America sounds like it's the land of opportunity. And what I have here isn't enough. So my family came, and the rest is history for us. As I look out amongst you, I can't help but know that your ancestors did the exact same thing as Christopher Columbus. They sat there in a country far, far away with nothing but a dream to be something more, to have something more, to come to a place where they can be entrepreneurs. So what is this connection? This DNA that's built into all Americans, this DNA to be bold and fearless dreamers. It's born out of the adventurous spirit of Christopher Columbus. Had he not done that, we wouldn't be able to dream. Our ancestors wouldn't have been able to dream the way that they do. And every accomplishment we see in the United States is a result of that spirit and that DNA that was built into us from that immigrant idea of going out and conquering and building and being something else. Our buildings, our spaceships, our airplanes, our cell phones, everything is born out of that DNA. So I'm here today to celebrate our shared DNA, our shared sense of adventure and conquering and being more than what we were and moving forward. And so I ask you to grasp on to that bold, fearless dreamer mentality that your forefathers had and celebrate today for the reason that we need to celebrate. We're the greatest country on earth, and it was for one reason. One reason only is because of these people that dared to dream. So dream with me on, and have a great day, and I'm so happy I'm here to celebrate with you. Thank you, Mark. John Carochi is our state president of the Sons of Italy.
But nice to see all these smiling faces and happy people. Makes me proud to be part of it. I don't know. There we go. We share common values, and we value our God, value our blessed United States, families, our communities, and the right that our founding fathers embedded in the United States Constitution. Today we use those rights to assemble and our freedom of speech to honor our heritage and to give thanks to our brave ancestors who dared to reach for the American dream. There's not one American dream. Everyone within the law has a right to seek their dreams. One of the main issues I have with the disrespect I see in our country is the idea that many of our citizens have lost focus on the American dream and the success of the greatest country in the world. To infer that anyone has the right to disrupt a holiday, take down statues, art of those who have contributed so much to the world and to our country, promote the changing of accurate history, walk into another person's place of business and take what they want, and many other atrocities we are seeing in our country with little or no consequences, inexcusable and counterproductive toward achieving that American dream. I mentioned last year at the monument that we're seeing a major division in our country, and along with that division, we're seeing not only groups pitted against each other, because of differences in opinions, but attacks on each other's values, which is very important to me. Many of those leading the charge to disrupt our nation lack the positive values related to community, religion, country, country pride, etc. And their values instead include destruction, hate, disrespect, and the list goes on. How miserable they must feel day after day when they see most Americans working to appreciate, celebrate, contribute to the success of our country. Negativity is the driving force for activists who are attacking positive values and successes of our country. Yet those who destroy the dream of others by destroying their property are rarely punished or called out for the hatred they put forth and to the destruction. In many cases, they are actually rewarded. And this is a slap in the face to the silent majority. Perhaps it's time for the silent majority to wake up, speak up, and more aggressively challenge those who want to change holidays and tear down monuments. People like Columbus, Jefferson, Washington, and many others. I think we need to restore common sense, judging our forefathers' actions through the lens of today's values is wrong. Life, survival, and customs have changed. Judging world's historic leaders' actions by our current standards is not realistic. That's why I support accurate history, because former leaders were not perfect, but they acted as they needed to so they could survive and move the American dream forward. We celebrate those who created this country, not because they were perfect, because they laid the foundation for such a great country and the impact we have on the world. Sometimes we fail. Our Italian community fought for decades to save Columbus Day as a Colorado holiday. We offered compromise such as to add a Native American celebration day. It turned out that the other side didn't want to build something to celebrate. They would be satisfied only by tearing down and destroying our celebration. Still, we did not fail. We're here paying homage to our roots and to those who built this nation. Along this journey, we have also built community. When the naysayers vandalized this beautiful statue, City of Pueblo, City Council, City Police Department all stepped up for our rights and worked with us to protect this monument. I feel we need to continue to contribute to the American dream and to the successes of our nation and its people. Promote education, support law enforcement, allow religious freedom, and many other value-related items. Talk to your family members and to your friends and neighbors about how you plan to move forward with your support of your country. Work toward a greater sense of community to strengthen the power of the silent majority, who have positive values with the hope of strength in numbers can overtake the actions of those whose values are hate, destruction, and disrespect, such as those banging on the drums and disrespecting the national anthem when it's sung and the prayers that are recited. This is our country, and I, for one, do not want to lose it, nor do I want to see it transformed into something that halts progress toward the values that support the American dream, as well as all of our successes in this country. God bless America, and God bless all of you here today and everyone who supports Columbus Day and our beautiful monuments of Christopher Columbus, those historical figures and leaders who created our foundation for the American dream, for the achievement that we have seen in the United States of America. Thank you.
Because one thing we're doing, we're keeping the American dream alive since 1905. And we're going to be here every year on Abriendo. So make sure you're here again. Last night, Jerry Carleo, the president of the foundation, had a dinner for our next author and historian Rafael Ortiz, and he will now come in and introduce him. Jerry?
Morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Happy Columbus Day. As Gino mentioned, last night's dinner was overwhelmingly successful. We were able to host it at the Sons of Italy Lodge. We expected a little over 100 people. We ended up with 160 people, and many of you were there. So again, it's great to see you this morning. So on behalf of the Colorado Italian American Foundation, our featured speaker today, who you saw via video last year, is Mr. Rafael Ortiz. Rafael, if you'll join us here.
Good morning. I want to thank the Colorado Italian American Foundation and the Sons of Italy Lodge 2738 for inviting me to speak at this event today. As we stand here, this Columbus Monument was commemorated in 1905 on behalf of the immigrants from many nations who came to Pueblo to find a better life. Today, we celebrate Columbus Day in recognition of the Admiral Cristoforo Colombo, also known as Cristobal Colon in Spanish or Christopher Columbus in English. You may wonder why Columbus Day is such an important holiday. The answer is that Columbus not only made history, but also divided history as the pre-Columbian and the post-Columbian eras, adding the awareness of the Old World and the New World. His name, Christopher, means the Christ bearer. Columbus believed that his mission was not just to explore new worlds, but to bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to peoples who had not yet learned about Jesus, and he did so strongly. Important holidays like Christmas Day did not exist until Columbus came to the New World. In fact, it was on Christmas of 1492 that Columbus decided to bring settlers for his next voyage. Easter is another very important religious holiday. It was introduced to the Americas because of Columbus. The state of Florida is named after that holiday. Since one of Columbus's explorers, Juan Ponce de Leon, discovered Florida on Easter Day. Easter in Spanish means Pascua Florida, meaning flowery Easter. And of course, other Europeans, like the Pilgrims, settled further north in what is now our United States of America, giving thanks to God after their very first year of survival, which later turned into what we call Thanksgiving Day. As history continued, the British colonies decided to separate from Britain, leading to the 4th of July in 1776. In other words, without 1492, we would not have 1776. Without Columbus, there is no Easter, no 4th of July, no Thanksgiving Day, or even the Christmas season. All those holidays unite us as one nation. One doesn't have to be religious in order to join and celebrate with us for Thanksgiving, Christmas, or Easter. Everyone is welcome. Even the Pilgrims celebrated Thanksgiving with their indigenous friends. Likewise, one doesn't have to be Italian American in order to celebrate Columbus Day. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome and has been since 1891 when the holiday was introduced by President Harrison. Remember, Columbus's voyages and expeditions united the Old World and the New World. Columbus was such an iconic person that everyone wanted a piece of him. This is why many nations have claimed him as their own. Thus, the conspiracy theories that he was Spaniard, Portuguese, British, Polish, etc. But Columbus was indeed 100% Italian. He and those who knew him said so. No wonder Italian Americans are proud of their heritage, since the American continent was discovered by an Italian, Christopher Columbus. North America was explored by another Italian, John Cabot, and America was named after an Italian, Amerigo Vespucci. Christopher Columbus is a symbol of scientific curiosity, exploration, perseverance, courage, and one of unity. However, there are some people now, 500 years later, who are trying to divide us by distorting history. The same holidays that have united us for so long are now used to divide us. Anti Columbus activists are history revisionists who hate America. They not only want to rename Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day, but they want to rename Thanksgiving Day as on Thanksgiving Day. They also want to get rid of the 4th of July and other celebrations. In other words, this is not really about Columbus, but about demonizing America. Columbus is just a scapegoat. That's why they started with Columbus, because they know most people know little or nothing about him. From there, they moved to cancel the legacies and statues of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and others. These controversies are based upon the lie that Columbus was the, quote, first white supremacist, followed by the Pilgrims and then by our founding fathers. And they even blame Columbus for the death of George Floyd in 2020. Just look it up. This misinformation campaign has caused not just the removal of statues renaming national and state holidays, but the renaming or the attempt to change the name of any institution, school, or location that carry Columbus's name. The fact is, you cannot separate Columbus from America. Our nation, our nation's founding was the result of his expeditions and those that followed. It was developed to what it is today because of him. Those who are looking to rename Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day are purposely putting people against each other. Let me be clear, we have no issues with Indigenous people or Indigenous Peoples Day. In fact, we want to celebrate with our Indigenous friends, but not at the expense of canceling Columbus Day, or real history. We feel strongly about this because there are already 2 Indigenous Peoples Day in the calendar. One is called the International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples, observed in August. And the other one is Native American Heritage Day, observed on the Friday after Thanksgiving Day. In addition, November is Indigenous Peoples Month. In other words, there is no need to rename any. So mark that on the calendar and tell to your leaders about it. Revisionists and activists claim that Columbus is a symbol of colonialism, imperialism, racism, and hate. They claim that Columbus was, quote, a genocidal maniac who caused the extermination of millions of indigenous peoples and that now we live in stolen land. The problem is that many people make claims without taking the time to verify, including community leaders, school boards, and politicians. They say that Columbus doesn't represent their values. Instead of reacting, they should have questioned the claims first and then made an informed decision based on facts and not propaganda. For 500 years, Columbus was a hero until a few decades ago when all of a sudden he became the villain. That alone should be a red flag. The source behind all of this anti-American propaganda was a self-proclaimed anarchist named Howard Zinn, along with other imitators and followers. The one thing revisionists have in common is that none of them are primary sources from the 15th century. None of them personally met Columbus. All of them are and were from the 20th and the 21st century. They've been able to influence Hollywood celebrities, academia, and the media. That's why they've been successful. But a lie is always a lie, no matter how many times it is repeated. All the accusations against Columbus are false, historically incorrect, contradictory, and some of them don't even make any sense. For example, revisionists claim Columbus never reached America, but then they accuse him of mistreating Native Americans. So the question is, how could he have mistreated Native Americans if he never reached America? Another objection is that Columbus did not reach North America. But I will remind you that Amerigo Vespucci neither reached North America, even though America is named after him. Moreover, the lands Amerigo Vespucci reached, he did by using Columbus's own map after Columbus reached the continent first. According to one of Columbus's primary sources, the New World should have been named Columbus or Colombia and not America. And I agree with that. The fact is that we are all Native Americans. Since America includes North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. Others question how Columbus could have discovered anything when people were already living here. The answer is the same way that Amerigo Vespucci, John Cabot, Juan Ponce de Leon, and other explorers did. They all discovered lands with people living there. Their discoveries and explorations always included people. The definition of discovery always included people. Yet, for some strange reason, Columbus is the only explorer who gets quotation marks with the word discovery. Or he is the only explorer who is denied of his discoveries. Every explorer and settler that came after Columbus was fully dependent on his initial voyage in 1492. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America just for Spain or Europe, but for the entire world and history. He was actually the first historian and the first anthropologist of the Americas. He is the only one, he is actually the one who introduced us to the indigenous cultures he encountered. Not only that, but the Spaniards, listen to this, the Spaniards united with the natives in marriage, bringing forth what we call today Hispanics and Latinos, to which I myself am one. I was born in Puerto Rico, which Columbus discovered in 1493. That's the reason why my mother language is Spanish, while at the same time I'm of indigenous descent. Columbus has been charged of committing all sorts of atrocities against the natives. That is the part where revisionists who misquote primary sources are using the wrong timeline of history. They are accusing of Columbus of things that he never did, in places he never visited or settled, or at a time where he was not present or was already dead. If Columbus was alive today, he could sue for libel, defamation, and slander, and easily he could win his case in court. Slander was the cause of the greatest lynching in America, where a group of Italian immigrants were hanged in New Orleans in 1891. Slander is the cause of all this chaos against Columbus and American history. Regarding the claims of genocide, it is ridiculous to think that one man with 3 ships could commit the genocide of millions of people in the Americas. But what revisionists call genocide is not even genocide, but rather the result of plagues, epidemics, and pandemics. We're supposed to believe that prior to 1492, there were no diseases in the New World until the Europeans arrived. However, plagues, diseases, and diseases exist before, during, after Columbus was dead in both the Old World and the New World. Plagues are not genocide. What revisionists don't tell you is that the first people dying of diseases were many of the Spaniards who came with Columbus during the second voyage, and not the natives. The death of natives due to diseases happened much later after Columbus was dead, and many times in places he never settled or discovered. As for the charge of slavery, number one, Columbus did not invent slavery. Number two, nor did he own slaves. Number three, nor did he start the transatlantic African slave trade. Slavery existed worldwide prior to his arrival in the New World and it was even practiced by the indigenous people as well. The false narrative here is that the pre-Columbian America was the Garden of Eden before Columbus. But that could not be further from the truth. The indigenous peoples were fighting, conquering, and enslaving each other long before 1492. Some of them were imperialistic. We need only to look at the history of the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayas. If Columbus Day represents war, conquest, slavery, then so does indigenous peoples' day. Since they were doing all those things, and by the standard of those times, they were doing much worse, since they practiced cannibalism and human sacrifices. Our indigenous friends do not celebrate that, and I assure you, we don't do that either. We don't celebrate Columbus Day or that kind of stuff. So those who are against Columbus Day, they claim to be in favor of inclusion, while at the same time they are excluding the most important Italian person in history. The irony is that it was Columbus who brought inclusion to the New World by connecting them with the Old World. Many places in America reflect this inclusion since many of them are named in Spanish, English, and indigenous. For example, Pueblo and Colorado are both names in Spanish. Other examples would be San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Antonio, while New York, New Jersey, New Haven, and obviously English. As for indigenous names, we have many names like Miami, Massachusetts, Iowa, Alabama, Illinois, Michigan, and so forth. The same with Columbus's name. Though the New World was mistakenly named America, there are many states, cities, and places named after him, including British Columbia in Canada, Washington, D.C., District of Columbia in the United States, and even a country in South America named after him, Colombia. The Pledge of Allegiance was written in honor of Christopher Columbus. As I said earlier, you cannot separate Columbus from America. There is a lot more to say, but not enough to do it here. That's why I have written 4 books on Columbus. I'm currently working on my 5th one. Whatever you may think I missed here today, it is for sure in one of those books, blogs, website, or social media. Finally, propagandists tell us that we need to decolonize America, even though we've been decolonized since 1776. All this while they're trying to conquer and colonize Columbus Day with their misinformation. But of course, we have the best weapon, the truth. It is time for us to rediscover Columbus. We need to teach our we need to teach the truth to our children's children. Spread the word to your family, please, and your friends, because it is the truth that set us free from the lies being used to divide us today. Thank you, and happy Columbus Day 2023.
Thank you so much.